This channel supports 8-Bit Salute and Operation Supply Drop. Please help us raise money to help support our men and women in service throughout the world. Operation Supply Drop, making fun where there is none. What up, everybody? This is your boy Blak Magus, and as I record this, I'm getting ready to do a live stream. For those of you on this channel who don't know, I do live stream on Twitch. I'm trying to get more of a regular schedule there, just like I'm trying to keep a regular schedule on here, and also do the many ridiculous amount of podcasts that I am into on my personal podcast channel, as well as helping out Abel Green and Team Green with the Team Green podcast. And anytime somebody asks me to come on to a podcast, I'm more than willing to be on there and help them out. I love to do podcasts. So, woo! Then you got work and school. God damn it, I'm a busy man. But hey, anyway, definitely check me out on Twitch, where we just sit and we just have like crazy good discussions. The last stream, before this recording, we sat and we broke down who would be the best people to cast in the roles of Street Fighter characters for a movie, and then we moved on to Marvel versus Capcom. Dipped our toe a little bit into Killer Instinct, and we didn't get to the Mortal Kombat thing, so I want to try to bring up the Mortal Kombat thing. I want to know who would be best casted for Mortal Kombat, so probably engage chat in that. But we have all types of crazy discussions. It can be a little adult sometimes, so do keep that in mind. It's not necessarily just for the kids, but it's for the adult gamers who enjoy gaming, enjoy music, enjoy movies, all that stuff. We just a bunch of big old geeks that like to have fun, play games, talk about stuff, and laugh and all that. So if you want to have a good time, come over to my Twitch channel, which is in the description, so you guys can find that and feel free to follow. Anyway, so the Assassin's Creed movie opened to a lackluster, what was the total? Let's see, $15 million in a 4-day holiday weekend. Overall, in its 6 days that it's been in the theater, it's earned $22.5 million, which Fox said is exceeding their expectation. Now, the movie cost $125 million to make. So, $22 million in 6 days for a $125 million movie. Wow, doesn't sound that great. It's like, hey, they've made about a fifth of the money back. If they can stay sort of consistent around the 5 to 10 million mark over its 2-3 month period in the theaters, plus we haven't gotten the international markets yet, they can make their money back and still make a profit. It's probably not going to be a big profit, but they can make money. They can make some money off this movie to be considered somewhat of a success. At least they can break even at the least, I think. But did any of us expect anything different? I don't think a lot of us was looking towards this as being a good movie. In particular, because if you play the Assassin's Creed games, and this is coming from an Assassin's Creed fan. I have played every game except for Syndicate, and a couple of the PSP games. And I have Syndicate. I just need to start it because I hear it's a pretty decent game. I'll probably start that. Maybe I should do that on stream one day to see how that is. But anyway, I'm a fan. The reason I'm a fan isn't necessarily because I think it's the greatest gaming series in the world or anything like that. It's not like Uncharted, where Uncharted, that series, that whole franchise, I think are very solid, great storytelling. I like the gameplay. Yes, it has repetitiveness in it, but that's the nature of video games. So, and it can be a shooting gallery, sure. It has its issues. I'm not going to sit here and tell you Uncharted is the undisputed perfect game franchise ever made. That being said, it's a high quality series that has great writing, great gameplay. Definitely worth it. Whereas with Assassin's Creed, I think my obsession and fandom for it is 180 degrees different. Is that yes, I know the Assassin's Creed story is full of a bunch of bullshit. It's some of the most convoluted writing I've ever seen in my life. Um, the gameplay is solid. It's not the greatest, but it's solid. There's a lot about the gameplay that I like. And I think it's one of the better ones. In fact, Ubisoft seems to think it's one of the better gameplay layouts because it seems like everything that they put out now has to incorporate something um, Assassin's Creed like, which I find hilarious. Uh, but you know, the jankiness of the story, the stupidity, their horrible storytelling, the way they lay it out, I find it very, very fun to play this horrible train wreck. I when it comes to the Assassin's Creed series, I'm that guy that, um, I guess you could say, metaphorically speaking, I stop to watch the accident. Um, when I know something bad's about to happen, I don't yell out and warn people that it's going to happen. I watch so I can be entertained. That's Assassin's Creed for me. I'm a narcissist when it comes to the Assassin's Creed series. I fucking want to see them go off the deep end and just continue to add more fuckery and more like bullshit, which has pissed a lot of people off and made them drop off the series. Whereas for me, it's a part of the charm of the series that it's so fucking off the wall and ridiculous. Because and even Ubisoft has recognized that by the way that they've taken the franchise. Once after they killed Desmond, they just decided to go off the rails and do these like weird individual shoots on the whole Estergo versus Assassin thing, where like with Black Flag, they had you working for Ubisoft basically as they developed the series. It was in basically saying Ubisoft is Abstergo because their offices were in Montreal and all types of craziness. Unity, you were somebody who bought the game and they hacked into your game to get you to help them. It was they're just like fucking like fuck it. We know this is some bullshit. We're just gonna take it and just ride with it and just cram as much bullshit as we can. And I dig that. It's a hilarious B movie ride that I enjoy. Um, so with all that said, we get the Assassin's Creed movie, which is considered a mess in itself. I've heard many people say the story is just ridiculous. It's makes no sense. It's funny. I watched this one guy do a review. It was like, maybe if you played the video game, you'd understand it. And I started to laugh out loud because I'm like, no, you probably won't because most people who played the video game have no fucking clue what's going on either. Um, so I guess in that sense, the movie captures the video game series. So it's probably one of those video game movies that holds true to its material. That being said, it's just another in the long list of video game movies that ultimately have not hit the mark. We had Warcraft earlier this year, which they said there was some fan service, there were some things that would appeal to people who loved World of Warcraft, but ultimately it was not a good movie. It was not necessarily a good story, and it just didn't hit and do anything for video game movies. Now we have Assassin's Creed, which seems to be doing the same thing. And it just brings to mind the question of, do we need to continue to make these video game movies? And if so, where are we going with all of this? Like, will there ever be a video game movie franchise or just a one-off video game movie that would be successful? Because we had, like I said, World of Warcraft. I almost forgot we had Ratchet and Clank, which many people will argue the video game did a better job of creating a cinematic experience than the movie itself, which is a shame because that's basically saying if they would have done what they did in the video game, the movie would have been good. And it's like, damn, how is it that a video game which has step-by-step procedures where you have to complete certain tasks to move on capture a cinematic feel more than a movie, which is basically just a straightforward written story where everything happens at a certain pace. That's crazy. You're like, there's no margin of error that can make the story stop and keep you from progressing. But they weren't able to hit the marks. The game was though, which is insane. And it's just like going over the history of video games and movies. It's just ridiculous how bad that they've been over the years. I would really, really love to see uh, a great gaming movie, like a video game translated to a great movie. Now, I've said this many times, and I still feel like Uncharted and The Last of Us shouldn't be made into movies. That being said, oddly enough, they may be two of the properties that may be able to make it because of the fact that the person who's writing it currently, Neil Druckmann, or even if you go back to Amy Hennig, if Amy Hennig was still with Naughty Dog doing Uncharted, you might have a chance for that to be a great cinematic translation because she went to school as a film student. She specialized in writing screenplays and things like that. So that's why Uncharted has always had that feel of a movie because she's trained as a screenwriter. Same with Neil Druckmann. He writes very passionately and does things in the like screenwriter manner. So those two people could pull it off possibly. But at the same time, who knows what the studios are going to want? If they're going to allow them to actually take it and translate it to a good movie, or if they just want them to mimic what's in the game. And I think that's ultimately part of the problem with video games being turned into movies is that too often people who do them feel like they have to capture certain things that they see in the video game in order for them to be good. Just like go back to the Doom movie when they had them switch to Carl Urban in the first person mode. You didn't need the first person fight where you fought everything and did the stuff that you did in the game. It was unnecessary. But they felt like that would be a cool callback to the game for gamers to geek out on. When no, if you want to take a video game property and turn it into a movie, you have to figure out what's the best way to translate this into a true cinematic experience. Making callbacks to games and trying to appeal to gamers in that aspect, I don't think works. I think if you could take it and tell a good story, like you could keep the essence of the characters and the universe, but you tell a movie story. You know what I mean? You write as if you're writing a regular movie. Because for the most part, video game stories works for video games because they're mostly put there as tools to make sense of why I'm doing this certain task. It's like in The Last of Us, the reason why I'm fucking having an upside down shootout while tons of infected come rushing at me in a garage is because we're trying to do something in this garage, and in order to let Ellie be able to complete that task, I have to be hung upside down shooting these things because I got caught in something, and I got to keep things free for her to finish the job. You don't have to do that in a movie. You can just tell a straight story. You can just talk about the conversations that they've had. You can just go from one place to the other. When you have action sequences, it doesn't have to mimic the game. We know what happens in the game and why you confront these things. Is because if you get caught by the infected, you have one or two choices. Either run for your fucking life or stand your ground and take them out so you can get away freely. You got to find a way to get around these infected. But you don't need us to do like we did in the video game and to go up to them and shiv them if we want to and things like that. You can do it like you would, like a normal person would do it. The storytelling in video games and storytelling in movies, while video games have mimicked cinematic experiences much more these days, it does not have to be one-to-one. Because there's certain things that you do in video games when telling a story that you're just leading to a gameplay sequence so it can make sense of why we are engaging in this shootout. Like with Drake, him trying to get around these guys, and all of a sudden, oops, Nadine and them shows up on the scene. It's gonna be a fight. So you need to press circle to get into cover and just like have a shootout. Whereas firefights can be much more straightforward. It's just like in movies, the hero confronts the enemy, boom, bang, boom. The shit happens. It doesn't have to be exactly like it goes in the gameplay. You don't have to have Nate duck around and hit cover and all that. It can be a regular movie fight, but I don't know. It just seems like when they make video game movies, they feel like they have to put video game shit in it when you really don't. You already have the characters. Just flesh the characters out to realistic characters, and that's about it. And I don't know. Hollywood doesn't seem to want to get that. But anyway, sorry for this video being so long. It's just that I just find it weird. And shout out to my chat from Twitch last night for all the suggestions for who would be in the movies. If I can make a VOD out of that, that would be cool. Because we had some really good suggestions for people who could play characters. But you can do video game movies if you choose to do it properly. You just stop having to feel like you have to make it feel like the video game. The movie should feel like a movie. And it should not necessarily have to be a callback to the game. Because when you keep doing that, you're destined to fail. Or you go the other way, like with the Super Mario movie, and you keep the characters, but you try to manipulate it and change it in such a level so far gone that it just falls the fuck apart. But we'll see. Maybe one day we'll get a slew of video game movies that are actually pretty damn decent and worth going to check out. Anyway, as always, you guys feel free to hit me up. Let me know what you think, and I'll holler at you later. This your boy Blak Magus, and I'm out. Deuces.